Do you know, Dana, so we've always been instructed as a good liberal country to be on guard against Islamophobia after a terror attack like 9/11. But now we have the worst attack perhaps since 9/11, and we have to be on guard against our response to their violent response on behalf of a terror attack. No one's talking about the opposite of Islamophobia. Do you follow me?
I do.
You know, the actual let's call it Jewophobia.
Right. And you're seeing it everywhere. And these campuses are going to be bad this fall. You already see it. The campus presidents are already trying to figure out a way to try to get ahead of it. But even like at Columbia, they don't want the police to come.
Yeah. Okay,
well, good luck to you then. We'll see what happens. And I hope that the students have a better experience than they did last spring, but I don't know. It was a horrific weekend. The pro-Hamas supporters have become the Westboro Baptist Church. And I can't help but remember, President Biden saying they've got a point. Or how about Kamala Harris saying, I studied the maps, and Israel absolutely should not go into Rafah.
Yeah.
Well, guess who was in Rafah?
The hostages.
The American hostage. He was there with the others who were killed right before they were going to be rescued because they knew. And then the administration says that Benjamin Netanyahu, he's responsible and that he's the one that needs to make more concessions. Well, guess what one of the concessions is from Hamas? That the mastermind, Sinwar is his last name, that his life be spared. That's the condition. And you know what just happened in the B block? While we were in the B block, Department of Justice just announced that they are going to sanction him. He's in the tunnels. I don't think that sanctioning him is his biggest concern right now. Surviving should be, and that should not be a condition. I think that next Tuesday at the debate, the question is going to have to be put plainly to the two candidates. What is your principle on dealing with terrorism? Can you be as simple as saying you're either with us or against us? Because that is clear in the minds of Americans of what that means going forward. I'm not saying there aren't nuances and it's difficult, but I do believe that if you have an American who was just shot in the head in a tunnel, that your response should be more than Bibi Netanyahu is responsible.
Yes, exactly. By the way, bring up Westboro, I've left. Jesse, isn't it a coincidence that these protesters only do this when they're back at school?
They took the summer off.
Yeah, they took the summer off.
When you hate Jews, you need a little summer break.
Yeah, you can't interfere with your summers in Nantucket. Your anti-Semitism needs room to grow in the fall.
And then you have the summer internships, and you can't really do it. And then the band gets back together first semester. And now they're all out there rabid as animals. Listen, Greg, this is a problem for Kamala Harris. The political climate on campus is going to hurt her campaign, not just with the way the votes are going to shift, but the images coming through the screens of this affects the American people. We don't like the chaos. It makes us feel unsettled. It makes us feel like there's no leadership right there, because there's not. Trump was right about the hostages. He said, and he didn't like saying it, that a lot of them he believed were dead. And that's why it's hard to negotiate a ceasefire when you don't have any chips to bargain with. How are you going to keep yourself alive and keep a hostage alive when you're in a tunnel underground getting shelled? It's not that easy. His answer on Iran is the perfect answer. He had Iran right where we wanted them. They were broke. They were surrounded. We had the Houthis getting annihilated by the Saudis. And all of a sudden, Biden comes along with Harris, and they're rich now, and they're funding terror, and that's the result.
Judge, what should Columbia do? And I know they're not going to take your advice. They'll probably end up imploding if they don't do something. But
well, Columbia said they had an anti-Semitism task force that was engaged, and you can't get on campus now without an ID. OK, but the protests are taking place right outside the gates. So unless there are consequences, this kind of thing is going to continue. Columbia will not allow the police on campus. They are the ones who can impose the consequences. But the question that I have is, number one, where is the Department of Justice? If it were any other race or religion or creed, I mean, you can go after the Jews. And what's going on in this country is anti-Semitism is being normalized, and nothing has changed since the spring. And, the Hamas leadership, what they have done, which is amazing, is they have turned down 5 of the ceasefire agreements that the U.S. agreed with Netanyahu on. And Netanyahu agreed with all 5 ceasefires. OK, and then Joe Biden comes out and says, Israel should have done more. Joe Biden, Netanyahu was wrong. I mean, it's an impossible situation. And my last point is this. Why are American students so passionate about Gaza when they could be passionate about Americans right now who are being victimized by migrant crime? We're going to talk about that in the next block. And the reason is because they consider the Jews occupiers. What about the fact that we're being occupied by 15 million illegals? Shouldn't we be subject to some compassion?
All right, Harold, last point to
So I
you.
reject the Democrats don't coddle these idiots. We don't coddle people. At our convention in Chicago, you had one night, one evening where there was a small group of people. There was nothing happened on the DNC floor. Kamala Harris told protesters at one of her events, if you don't want to shut up, go vote for Donald
coddled
Trump.
them at Columbia.
Go vote. No,
They
not
coddled them at
Democrats.
Harvard. Those are Democrats.
I will not. Those are not Democrats. The
Who are
Democratic
they?
Party. I don't know whom they are, but I'll tell you this. Are they Trump supporters? Because if they're out, they came to the Democratic convention and said that they didn't like what we were doing. They come to her events, and she says, you shut up.
Are you going to turn this into their pro-Trump?
No, but you've turned it into Kamala Harris. I resent that and reject that. I don't know who they are. I'm not saying that they're pro-Trump, but they're
When's
certainly
the last time Kamala Harris spoke about Jews not being able to go to class?
She talked
When
about
has
it.
she spoken at all
Look,
about
I'd
Gaza?
like to just have 20 seconds. She's not done that. Finally, these campuses, this is an affront and abomination. You had all summer to manage your campuses. If you make the points you made, Judge, about the having have to have ID to come on campus, the fact they can't manage them is I'm speechless at the moment. So why you can't figure this out? My passion is about this being Democrat or Republican. This is not a Democratic Party thing. Finally, there is a fluidity in the politics in Israel that is fascinating to me. It appears that Mr. Netanyahu is facing challenge within his own country about how they are prosecuting this war. I want them to destroy Hamas. But if the politics can't be managed in their own country, it is hard to imagine how the politics is going to be managed in other parts of the world. I don't side with anyone who is against Israel, with anyone who doesn't want them to be able to respond, and with anyone who doesn't want them to have the tools and resources and weaponry they need. But something is happening that we all have to acknowledge. It's happening in Israel, and the things that are happening on our campuses, I blame the leadership on these campuses for not being able to get control of it. If they need more police help, they should ask for it. If they need more federal help, they should ask for it. But students should not be put in danger. I saw this young lady, I don't know if she was on your show, Dana, Amanda Silberstein, I think she was on Fox and Friends this morning earlier from Cornell, said, if you don't punish this stuff, it's going to continue. You have to punish this behavior.
With the death penalty.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
for that.
All right, up next, more consequences of Kamala's open border.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.